A quick one before we get started. Remember, views and opinions expressed on this channel are not and should not be considered as financial advice. I am not a certified financial advisor and not registered with the FSCA. All right, let's go. It is a new month, guys. A new month should feel the same way as a new year. A new day should feel the same way as a new year. It's a new beginning. It's another chance for you to get it right. It's another chance for us to get it right. Okay? It's another chance for me to get it right. There's so many things that I had listed in January that I'm like, I'm gonna do these things. And to be honest with you, and honest with myself, I've been really trying. I don't expect, okay, I do expect that I would get it right the first time, but gotta take it easy on yourself. Give yourself a pat on the shoulder for the things you got right so far. And then those things that you're not quite getting right, start writing them down and see where you can improve. Okay, I have my areas of improvement. I'm always telling you guys my dirty laundry. Not today, not this time. Anyway, welcome back to Chat with Tfsa, everyone. It's your favorite Tonga girl. It's your favorite Tonga girl. Da 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 da. Anyway, I'm glad that you guys are here and you're still here and you always do the 4 out of 4. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Yazi kuno number 5. Kuno number 5. And I must start adding the number 5 and make it a 5 out of 5. The 5th one is watching the ads, making sure your girl gets paid. Making sure your girl gets paid something, you know? Watch an ad or two, okay? Don't skip them. Watch at least one, okay? Anyway, guys, it is a new tax year. It's a new tax year. So we say happy new tax year. Write it down in the comment section. Happy new tax year. We have officially begun the 2022 tax year. Yes, 2022 started in January, but that is not when the tax year begins. And as people that invest, we invest, you know. It's important for us to pay attention to tax years because the tax year determines when we can add more money to our tax-free investment account, our tax-free savings accounts, right? So that we do not exceed those limits that are set, which is 36,000 per tax year, right? And how much in a lifetime? 500,000 exactly. So some of you are getting closer and closer to that lifetime limit of 500,000. Some of you have never even touched it yet and don't even know about it. And I've made a couple of videos where I've spoken about tax-free savings accounts and explained what it is, how it's different from your 32-day notice account, how is it different from a savings account, where you can go and look for a tax-free savings account and compare the different providers that offer tax-free savings accounts, and shared my own personal experience with a previous tax-free savings account that I had with another provider, and then now being with my Easy Equities one. And so far on that Easy Equities one, I've made 2 contributions. So those have been 236,000 that I have contributed in that TFSA. It's been growing really nicely. It's had its open up naturally, so I like that actually. And I'll tell you why. And yeah, like now, because of the current situation in the world about the war and everything between Russia and Ukraine, obviously a lot of the ETFs that we've invested in our TFSAs are getting affected because they have a lot of global exposure. Okay, remember when wars happen in the world, and sanctions are placed on a particular country, so many things happen economically, and that will definitely affect the stock market, and it will definitely affect those ETFs that you have invested in. If you're feeling lost about what I'm talking about, I think it's best you do start with my other TFSA videos, and you can play those over here. Look for them here. Okay, but other than that, you can stay tuned because I always simplify. Na ki madam simplification. Hey. I'm Tfsa. Tfsa means bring in Tsonga. I bring simplicity. I bring, what else do I bring, guys? What else do I bring? Tell me, what do I bring? Every tax year I try my best. Actually, I don't try my best. I always invest the full 36,000. So far I've made one contribution with a different provider and I withdrew, and then I've made 2 contributions with Easy Equities, right? So the first contribution I made was in 2018 or 2019, and at that time the limit was set at 33,000, and then it was increased. It's been 2 tax years now that we've had 36,000. So this is going to be my third 36,000 that I'm going to be putting in. But the difference is that this time I'm not doing it the way that I did it before. So this time I'm not going to like now just drop 36,000 in there and then try and divide it up and put it here, put it here, put it here, put it here, and then be like, okay, done. Let's just watch it grow. That's a good strategy if you know, good, hey, if you keep that 36,000 in your savings account, you're going to spend it, right? What was nice was that throughout the year I would be saving money in a savings account, an interest-bearing savings account that has a good interest rate, okay? And I have told you guys that Time Bank offers one of the best interest rates out there when it comes to interest rates in savings accounts. So I would then withdraw that money from the savings account and then invested in the TFSA. This year, Miguel has been like buying shares, buying shares, investing in property, buying a whole second property now, bada bam, bada bam, bada bam, you know. And I don't have the 36,000 to just drop in my TFSA this time around. And actually, I'm glad that I don't, because now I have this goal that I wanna reach that maximum of 36,000 per tax year, and I must make sure that any little money now invest in my TFSA, so that I can make up for not having that 36,000. You know, I'm gonna push hard. Every time I think of spending, I'm gonna, hey, you don't have that 36,000 down payment to just drop in your TFSA, so please do Tfsa. And I don't want to interrupt the savings or the goal rather that I have of investing 5,000 per month in my ZAR account or my ordinary investments. But maybe I might actually have to take some of that money and put it in the TFSA, divide it, maybe 2.5, but then still try and push to get that 36K limit finished and clar on the TFSA side. And also, the reason why I'm also glad that I don't have it is because I don't think that strategy was a good idea, where I just invest once off and just leave it like that. Because the ETFs has been doing this the whole tax year. Up and up, dancing nicely. And I'm like, it would have been nice to buy it when it was at this point instead of at this point, you know? So if I was making those monthly contributions and rather investing monthly, there were times where I'd catch it at its peak, fine, and there's times where I'd catch it when it's lower, meaning that I get more shares at a cheaper price. But now if I bought that ETF once off when I when I deposited my 36,000, that means that I got it only at that price. And it's only some ETFs that I got when the price was still low, and some of them I got them when the price was still high. And the ETFs every day, just the same way as shares move up and down, the prices of ETFs also does the same. Maybe not as dramatically and as frequent as individual shares, but it does do that. And I'm like, I could have capitalized on that, but I could not, because this are already invested in much. Finish and clar, you know? So now, if I'm conscious of the fact that, okay, I've set my goal, I've written my goal down, and when I get paid, when I'm doing my budgeting and everything, I know that this money is allocated to my TFSA, then I look at the ETFs that I want to purchase for that month, and I keep doing the same thing until before the new tax year. Until before the new tax year, okay? So that's my strategy this year. And also, even if I had that 36,000 to put in there, I don't think I was gonna put it in there. Also, even if you want to like deposit your 36,000 into your Easy Equities account and transfer it into your TFSA and start buying ETFs gradually throughout the year, that's not a good idea, because when that money just sits at the top there, the longer it stays there, then they're gonna charge you a cash handling fee, and the interest that it will earn there is very little. So rather keep it in a savings account where it gains or earns some interest, and rather than invest gradually every single month. So for example, like I said, I personally feel that with Time Bank, where you pay no banking fees, and you get a higher interest rate with them, if you have like a goal save account, right, and then you call it TFSA, and you leave your money there, if you have the 36,000, and then every single month when you're buying your ETFs, you deposit it into your Easy Equities account, and then you buy your ETFs throughout the year and so forth. So you know that you don't touch that money. That money is just for your TFSA. I would have done that instead. Okay. What else did I want to add about the tax-free savings account? My tax-free savings account is really for the long term. Very long term. It's for when I'm old. Very, very old. But if I don't get to that old age, I'll leave it for my beneficiaries. But it's really, really for the long term. I wanted to add to my retirement. It must supplement a retirement, yeah. Remember then, in your TFSA, you cannot buy shares. That option there is not available. You can only buy ETFs. But some of you who have TFSAs that are not necessarily invested in a particular ETF or so, and rather one where it's in the money market or so forth, and you have a specific percentage per annum that they give you or pay you, then you do nothing to your TFSA. They tell you when you should, what's the minimum amount you should put in and by when, and your TFSA does very little moving. So yeah, your TFSA wouldn't have ETFs. So it's rather have a TFSA that is invested in ETFs. And there was a video that I made where we went like TFSA shopping and looked at the different TFSAs and how they differ. And today we're not doing that, so you can watch that video later. Okay, I'll link it in the description box and you can watch it later. So essentially, the bank ETFs, usually the interest rate that's offered is very low, and I'm not a favor of those ones. Like, there's very little exposure that your TFSA would have, so it also limits the growth. Very low risk and very low growth. It's good to have some risk, see some growth. I also am not a fan of like provider specific ETFs, because then what if that provider ETFs don't give you full exposure, right? Maybe some providers' ETFs do not have ETFs in a particular asset class, right? And it's like, oh, this provider only has X amount of ETFs, and if I get a TFSA with them, then you're only limited to those ETFs. But some providers have quite a number of ETFs with great exposure, so you can go with a specific provider and have their TFSA. That's possible, and you can do that, and it can be beneficial. But do your research that, okay, this TFSA provider, where would my TFSA be invested? What ETFs do they have? What asset classes do they cover? Okay, so just have a look at that. I prefer a provider that gives me access to all those other providers' ETFs. So I can buy ETFs that are coming from that provider and that provider all in one place and put them in my TFSA instead. Because why must I only eat a vanilla cake if I can eat a rainbow cake? I'm being silly. Okay, the biggest question that you should always ask about your TFSA, the TFSA that you have now, is what is my TFSA invested in? Okay, can I make changes to my TFSA very easily and whenever I want to? Like if I feel like I don't want to be invested in this thing now and I want to sell it and I want to be invested in that, can you make those changes? Or even if you speak to your financial advisor and stuff, can those changes be made? What is the level of flexibility in your TFSA? Like, are you limited? Are your hands tied? Like once your money is in, it's in, you know? And are there any minimums? Like what if you can't contribute per month to your TFSA? Maybe that provider is saying that you must put in X amount per month and this is the minimum. What if you only had 200 Rand this month and then for the next 3 months you don't have 200 Rand to put in? So assess that when you are choosing a TFSA to invest in. And also look at like the fees as well. Like you'll be with a TFSA provider and you'll think it's great, but you'll find that the fees involved are like, y'all want to take my money? I must pay you guys this amount? Shush. Wow, okay. And don't let risk levels limit you. Do not let risk levels limit you. I tell you, hey, low risk. Just know, low risk, low growth. Okay? Hey, medium risk. Hey, high risk. No, I feel like you can have a bit of all of it. You can have investments in your TFSA, those investments being ETFs, that are high risk, that are low risk, that are medium risk. You don't have to be categorized into one Tatazel level. Like low risk, okay. Little to no Tatazeling. Medium risk. Some Tatazeling. High risk. Tatazeling really high, but you know how to manage your Tatazel. No, sometimes I must Tatazel, sometimes not, sometimes medium. So I just feel like these risk levels really limit your growth. Now why are you sitting on a low risk TFSA for the rest of your life? Risk levels must be explained properly. And I feel like it's an injustice for someone to be just limited to a certain risk level. Give me a bit of high, give me a bit of medium, give me a bit of low. But for me, give me high. Give me more high, medium, and a little bit of low, just to balance things. Okay, so now we know that we can invest in ETFs in our TFSAs. We have these ETFs in our TFSAs. We see them making money. We see them sometimes in the negatives and all of that. And we see certain people investing in certain ETFs and we're like, oh, I want to go in on that ETF too. It's important for you to know where that ETF is invested, like what asset class and which geography, where. Okay, so ETFs, you can look at the minimum disclosure document and see which companies, which shares of which companies does it hold and what percentage of that, right? You'll find that you have an ETF, mistake that I've made in the past, that has the same companies as another ETF and another ETF. So zonke, all of them, I wanted to say it in Afrikaans. All of them are all of them are sort of like being affected by the same thing because they have the same companies within them. There's very little difference between them. Okay, so it's important for us, and I think the Chat with Tfsa community, maybe we should start doing that, where we start breaking down ETFs and seeing what is inside this ETF, so that we don't find ourselves like just literally you're just invested in the same thing, maybe with a different name and a different provider. Tfsa has done that. Some of them I still need to correct them, but I'm like, they're making profits, why must I change them? Another thing that I'm not a fan of this year is like individual country specific ETFs, like, oh, this is a China ETF, this is a India ETF. I feel like with those ones, one needs to be very careful, because any legislation or laws or whatever that country now decides to implement or state, or whatever the word is for that, it can affect those companies so much, and it can affect your profits as well. So you're literally affected by what a whole country has decided. I would rather be invested in an ETF that has some of those companies from that country and also some of the companies from another country and another country, and they're all together in one. Not one particular country. I don't think I like those, and I think I'm okay now with them. And maybe in the future we can look at like performances of individual country or country specific, location specific ETFs and see how they've performed. Maybe I'm wrong. Remember, I'm not an expert. This is also just mainly how I feel and what I've seen in my own portfolio. It might actually not be the case, and I'm open to learning and being corrected, right? Top performing ETFs. Like, somebody might say, oh, these are the top performing ETFs. These are the top ETFs. When were they? Okay, maybe at that point they were top performing. Maybe during that time they were top performing. Or maybe they might be top performing for now, right? So don't necessarily invest in particular ETFs just because they were deemed top performing. You might actually just go and invest in a top performing one and find that you are you're buying it while it's at its peak, and you're putting all your money in there, like, they said this one is top performing, and you put all your money in there and you're like, I want this one. They said these ones are top performing. And then when you got in there when it was at its top performing stage, then it goes down, or averages back to its normal price. So be careful with these top performing ETFs. Look into them. Remember, we look at graphs and we see what's going on there, okay? So don't just invest because it's supposedly top performing, okay? And then there are those ETFs as well that pay dividends. What I like about dividends in a TFSA is that, you can reinvest those dividends into that ETF, or you can take those dividends and buy another ETF, for example. And any dividends that are paid do not affect your limit of 36,000. Anything that happens within a TFSA will not affect limits. But the things that affect limits are when you deposit and when you withdraw. So when you're depositing money in, you should not exceed your 36,000. And when you withdraw, what you withdraw, you cannot replace. Okay? Sharp. So earning dividends is great because you get more pieces of the pie nice and slowly, a little bit for free in a way. Dividends are nice. So as we've seen in the news and we're seeing every day on social media that there is a war that is happening in Russia, between Russia and Ukraine, and that's going to affect a lot of the global economics, okay? And we live in a global economical world. So what happens in this country affects us. What happens there affects us, even though we're just down here in South Africa. So remember that some of your ETFs, there might be some changes there. You might see some losses. And when you do, just stay calm and stay up to date with what's going on in the news. And actually, this might be an opportunity where we can buy some of these ETFs at a cheaper amount than what we would have been able to buy it at. So maybe rather get in gradually now so that we see how things sort of escalate and de-escalate and the effects in the short and long term. And yeah, maybe that can be a benefit for now, where we can buy those ETFs at a cheaper price than if they were just performing normally and there was no war. Okay, so look for those opportunities as well. Like I said, don't necessarily focus on, oh, this ETF is top performing. Look at what's going on globally. Look at which ETFs are getting kind of like affected by this war thing going on, and look at like previous performance and what companies in what type of industry it's invested in, so that you can choose wisely. Obviously, Nami, I'll go and do that selection, and I'll obviously come back and share that with you guys and tell you maybe why I've added more to that ETF that I already have, or any new ETF that I buy. And remember, like within your TFSA, the ETFs that you have, you can sell them anytime. Selling does not mean that you now have withdrawn money. Withdrawing money is like literally you took out money, you took it from your TFSA, you sent it to your Easy Equity ZAR account, or you took it from your TFSA and then you put it in your bank account. That's withdrawing. But you selling an ETF, right? You sell the ETF, the money reflects in your balance. You didn't withdraw the money. Then you can just buy another ETF with it. Okay. Other sort of things that people have asked is, can I have more than one TFSA? Of course, yes you can. So you can have a TFSA with multiple providers, as long as those TFSA's contributions, so the deposit you made here, and here, when you add them up, they must not exceed 36,000 in that tax year. Okay, so if I get 5 here, 15,000 here, and 15,000 here, and another 1,000 there, okay, mustn't in total 36,000. Okay, now you can't add anymore. Okay, so yeah, you can. Maybe if you're trying to transfer your TFSA from one provider to another and you're not able to, maybe just rather keep both of them and contribute to both of them, but making sure that you do not exceed your limit, because you'll be penalized for that. So just to explain the concept of the 500,000 lifetime limit, let's take me for example. How much of that lifetime limit do I have left? I have 395,000 of my lifetime limit left. And if I continue to contribute 36,000 per tax year, and if they don't increase that amount from 36,000 to maybe 40,000 or whatever, I'm only going to reach my lifetime limit in 11 years or so. So that means that when I first had my TFSA, I contributed 33,000. Okay, I withdrew that 33,000. By withdrawing that 33,000, that means that I have subtracted from my lifetime limit. My lifetime limit went down. Okay? I cannot replace what I have withdrawn. Okay? So my lifetime limit is no longer 500,000 because I withdrew that money. So my lifetime limit now is 467,000 because I've just minus that 33,000. Right? I've added another 236,000 in 2 different tax years. Right? So now that's why my lifetime limit now that's left is 395,000, and I might reach that in about 11 years or so, unless they increase how much we can contribute per tax year. Hopefully they do. All right, so if there are any questions that you guys still have about the TFSA account, feel free to leave it in the comments section. I always respond to comments. Feel free to look for me as well on financialchats_Tfsa on Instagram. And I really hope that this year, if you don't have a TFSA, that you will open one and start investing in your TFSA. And that maybe if you were slacking a little bit in the past, that this year you'll actually work to add more money and reaching that maximum limit of 36,000 per tax year. I hope that you found this informative, and before we close, we're gonna have a quick look at my TFSA and where it's sitting at, and I'll keep sharing any changes that I make to my TFSA throughout this new tax year. Happy new tax year, everybody. Let's keep investing, growing, and growing with the people around us. We level up with them. Okay? Doof doof. Thank you. Cancer.
Alright, let's have a quick look at my TFSA. I don't know why it's a -11. I don't know what that means. I don't know, do I owe somebody something? Anyway, let's click on account overview. There are a few changes that I made to my TFSA. Like if you've been watching my previous videos, there are some ETFs that you might not see being there anymore because I sold them. The current value is right here. This is today on the 3rd of March 2022. I have not made my 2022 tax year contribution, and I'll make it soon, and I'll tell you guys which ETFs I'm going to add and why, and which ones I'm adding more money to. So this is what it's looking like. I've got the One Tfsa bond ETF, global div tracks core shares, First Rand global 12,000 fund of fund ETF, First Rand mid cap, First Rand top 40. These First Rand ETFs actually used to be called the Ashburton ETFs, but they've been, I think, bought by FNB, something like that. So now they are called First Rand and not Ashburton. So I think you might have noticed that if you also have if you had Ashburton ETFs, now they're called First Rand. And then here are the Satrix ones that I have. You can look through it. You know, my red apple one, the biggest red apple. Emerging markets are not doing well today. And yeah, my golden girl is slowly making her comeback. She is slowly making her comeback. Let's look at how she looked in the past 3 months. Yeah, you know what, ne? She's slowly making her comeback, and then she went down again. You know what? I'm going to wait for her. I'm not going to sell. I'm just going to leave her as she is. But I'm skeptical about adding more. And yeah, in the next video, guys, we will see what I do with my deposits every month. Like I said, it will be a monthly thing and not a once-off contribution. And remember not to leave your money here in this balance over here. It has to be invested. You have to go and click invest now and then buy your ETFs. Okay? All right. See you on the next one.